Hello and welcome to Chat with Yasmin via Beauty Therapy Focus. How are you all today? I've come online to basically talk about preparing ourselves for exams, the beauty exams, and the one that I'm particularly looking at today is manicure because why? Mainly because when we think about manicure and an exam, very often the students think of their assessment, their practical assessment, thinking, okay, do you know, well, hopefully they're practicing their manicure practical, but the exam itself is theory, and most of the beauty therapy exams are the theory of that particular unit. So one of the things in the manicure is that actually I say in the manicure, but most of the units they have anatomy and physiology. So today I'm going to look at a part of the A and P that you get in your manicure exam. And I know we've just finished facials and we're working towards preparing for our manicure exam, but there's just so much underpinning knowledge that it's good to start now, not leave the what would you say, not leave the revision until nearer to the time. If we just do a little bit every day. So today we're going to go through bones. All right, and because it's a manicure, it's going to look at the bones of the hand and lower arm. At least that's what they say in on the in the logbook, but they actually look at the name of the bone of the upper arm as well, right? So I'm going to go through these bones. First of all, I'm going to say all the names, and then I'm going to point out those areas on my own arm because I don't have a skeleton with me. As you know, I don't know if anybody remembers Hubert. He didn't come with me. I had to leave him in the classroom, so I'm going to use my own arm to show you where those bones are. But the bones that I'm going to look at today are carpal, ulnar, radius, humerus, metacarpal, and phalanges. All right, let's just put that to one side. So those are the bones that we're going to look at for our manicure exam. And basically, you're going to get a diagram that points to all these different places, and you need to say what that particular bone is called. All right, so I said the names first so that you could be familiar with the sound of the names. Luckily, we don't actually have to work out how to spell them, but we need to be able to recognize them first and identify where they are. So the first one I said was carpal. A lot of people that are of a certain age group will probably know carpal because they've had carpal tunnel syndrome. And basically, those are the 8 bones that are in your wrist. So if you feel around, you can actually feel those bones. So the first set of bones is the carpal bones, okay? And then we've got the ulnar. The ulnar is actually in the lower arm. In the lower arm, we have got 2 bones. We've got a nice thick one, and we've got a thin one. The thin bone is the ulnar. Now, this is the trick. When you see the diagram, you've got to think to yourself, are they showing you the front of the skeleton or the back of the skeleton? And is it the left hand or the right hand. Why does that matter? Because the skeleton, I'm going to stand up like this, will probably be standing like this or with their hand like this. And depending on which way round their hand is, depends on which side the ulnar is. I don't know if that was very clear. But what I always say to my students, look at where the little finger is, because that's where the ulnar runs up from. So regardless of if the hand's this way round or this way round, once the arrow is pointing to the side of the arm where the little finger is, that's the side where the ulna is. So that's how you can recognize that particular bone, right? The other bone is the radius, which is the big bone beside the ulna, right? So we've got the radius and we got the ulna. Now, I said that when we're doing our manicure exam, the logbook specifically says that you need to know the bones of the lower arm and the hand. And then, guess what? When you're in the exam, they ask you for the name of the, or they point out the humerus. So the humerus is actually this bone, the upper arm, right? And the way I remember it is because of the elbow. And you know, when people hit their elbow, they say it's their funny bone, although there's absolutely nothing funny about hurting your elbow. But I connect that in my head with the rest of the bone, which is the humerus, thinking, oh, that's funny. I don't know if that. The humerus is the bone of the upper arm. And then we've got the metacarpals. Do not get them mixed up with the metatarsals, all right? So the metacarpals, remember we had the carpals around the wrist. So the I'm doing it now. The metacarpals are the actual bones of the hand, all right? So it's carpals and metacarpals. And last but not least, what I think are the most interesting bones, because they're named in two parts of the body, two completely different parts of the body, are the phalanges. All right, so luckily in the exam, they only ask you where the phalanges are, and the phalanges are the finger bones. All right. If it's an examination board that's, what's the word? I'm going to say ambiguous. They might ask you for the proximal phalange, the mid phalange, and the distal phalange. So the proximal is the bone that's nearest to the body. The one, of course, the mid phalange is the one in the middle, and the distal phalange is the one further away. I haven't seen that for a few years now, so hopefully they just ask you about the phalanges. And why did I say that they were really interesting? Because they also call the bones of the toes phalanges as well. Just to confuse, I think they might have run out of names, or basically they are so similar, and there are people that can use their toes the same way that we use our fingers. So why not all have the same name? That's my way of thinking anyway. So those are the, what's that, 2, 4, 6 bones that you need to memorize. Like I said, you don't have to worry about how they're spelt or anything. Needless to say, I've written the names at the top so that you can actually see what they look like, and so that when you go into your exam, you'll be able to recognize it and identify where they are, because you would have done your 20-minute study every day, wouldn't you? So this time round, it's just for the manicure, the bones of the hand, lower arm and upper arm is what I've just been through. I've just gone through the basis of the A and P for, or some of the A&P for the manicure exam. They don't just ask you about the bone. Needless to say, you know that they're going to, if you think about it, it still includes skin. The skin is possibly in every single beauty exam. So we've got the bones. No, I don't think the circulation will be in your manicure, but they may have the lymphatic system. Okay, so for now, let's just memorize where our carpal is, where the ulnar bone is, where the radius is, where the humerus is, where the metacarpals are, and where the phalanges are. And the interesting thing about the phalanges is that the toe bones are called the same. And last but not least, we've got 3 phalanges on each finger, but on the thumbs it's only 2. Ta-da! That was quick, wasn't it? Okay, thank you very much for listening in.